Good evening. This is New Air Gardner, and today I'm going to be talking about a couple of things and everything that has to do with vermiculture. Vermiculture is what the worm castings are with the worms, and worm compost is what we make from it. One thing I want to talk about is the pH and the moisture. My opinion is pH has a lot to do with what the worms are living in and what they recommend what the pH should be. Also, when we're talking about moisture, the moisture is also what the worm is made of. Probably a worm is maybe, I'm going to say 80%, 90% water. What it's made of, how it breathes, because it takes on the water, and that's how it kind of breathes through its skin. So moisture is a big thing. I never test my pH. I never check my moisture. I go by feel as far as my moisture. When I make my bedding, I put my paper in dry, I put my cardboard in dry. I do make my coconut core a little wet because the paper is going to suck up that extra moisture. Of course, when you put it in a bucket, I make it up weeks in advance. I make it up 2-3 buckets. I do it all at one time. And as it sits in the bucket, of course, the moisture is going to go down. It's going to seep down to the lowest point. So what's at the bottom of the bucket is going to be a little more moist. So I figured today I would just talk about that and kind of look at what the pH is. Now, I don't know if you can see it. My pH here is 8. Should be 6.5, 7. It's 8. Am I concerned about that? No. If you are concerned about that and you want to be proper and keep it down to 7, you can add a little bit of dolomite lime to it. That should bring it down. When you mix it in with your bedding, I'm not concerned about that. Now that I am testing it, and did test it, I will keep an eye on it. So I'm not concerned. It's about halfway through the bucket, and it states to let it sit for a couple of seconds, well, about a minute, and then check it. So I'm going to put in another, oh, I'm sorry, I was on moisture. So looking at that, I don't know if the camera picks it up. My pH is at 6.5, almost 7. So that's kind of perfect. So that's what you kind of want. I'm going to check on moisture content. I'll put it so maybe you can see it. It's on moist. So that's where we want it. I'm pretty sure if I stick it all the way down, it's going to go up a little, which it did. It's a little over moist. And that's going further down into the bottom of the bucket where there's more moisture. If you give it a minute, it may go up, it may go down. As far as moisture, it's still good. It's at probably 80% moisture further down there. Towards the top where it's a little drier, it was 7. So that's perfect. So that's 70% moisture. That's kind of what you want in the range that you want. Uh, as you start to add food into it, I'm not concerned in the beginning when I add in my bedding, when I make my bedding. I'm not really concerned about it when I first put it in the bin if it's wet, because once I start emptying this out, I'm going to empty the top to the bottom, which is, I don't want to say dry. It's not as moist as what's on the bottom. But I can still get a drop or two out of that. That's at the top. So that's perfect moisture. So I'm not worried about that. But when we're doing the pH, like I said, I never tested it, but I bought one of these little testers. Seems to work fine. I noticed if you put it in something and maybe you're wobbling it, the gauge may move some. So you want to put it in, let it sit for a minute, don't touch it, come back and look at it, and just kind of see what it's reading. In this bucket, everything just seems to be fine, so I'm not concerned about that. And this bucket, even with the minerals in it, and that's the other reason why I wanted to start testing it, because I do put some different minerals in it. So I wanted to make sure that I wasn't making the pH go high. This has coconut core. It has also it has coconut core, compost. It has newspaper. It has white paper. Has a little bit of color paper. I don't mind the color paper. It also has biochar. And what I do is, when I do the next bin, I take that stuff that's left over and I mix it back in to also activate the biochar. Also, what I do is I don't use it all that way, but I do use some of that biochar that comes out and do some active biochar for myself, for my garden. Where at that time I did a bucket and it did very, very well. So what, and it also has biochar, and I do add biochar, more biochar in it. I use a combination of flake and powder in there. I mean, I don't know if the camera picks up the color of this. I mean, it already looks dark and black. That could be from the biochar powder and the use of the compost, which is black gold. So I mean, that looks good to me. It's got a good moisture, so I'm really not worried about that. But I do want to show you something else. So I'm going to grab something. Give me a second. This is my own personal active biochar, and it's stuff that I save from every time I clean out the bins. So it has chunks in it, it has small pieces, it has some twigs in it when I did the compost bin with the worms. I'm gonna dig down. I kind of already this morning, to a gentleman at work, I sold some active biochar. I don't know if you can see that, the white. That is the fungi. Because there is other organic matter in here, I mean, look at that. That's the fungi. That's what you want to get for your biochar when you're doing active biochar. That just tells you how alive this is. I mean, this is phenomenal. This is going to be very good for my garden. I was talking to the guy that I actually sold some active biochar to today, And I said to him, I said, man, I had a bucket of active biochar I made for myself for my garden. I says, and it had some fungi in it. I says, which is good, which is a good thing. And I said, I was going to give you that. I said, but then I thought about it. It's kind of chunky. It's got a lot of twigs in it. It's got a lot of this in it. It's got a little of that in it. I said, but I don't know if you know about the fungi. So I didn't want you to go crazy and say, what the heck is L selling me? So I said, I wasn't. He said, oh man, you could have brought me that. I would have been happy with that. It's already nice activated. It's already alive. Oh man, that would have been perfect. Well, now I know. But I made this for myself. Like I said, a lot of times when you have a lot of twigs and pieces of wood, you get the fungi and what you feed it and things like that. What's in here. So I just wanted to show you that. That's a nice thing. That's a good find. Oh. So I'm gonna fix the camera for a second. So we're still on moisture. So this is one of my bins that went 3 months. And I'm going to harvest this after I finish this video. I'm not going to harvest it. But I just want to check the moisture. Yep, it's on moisture. That's a good moisture. It's at 65%. I mean, I just stuck it in there. Actually, it's at 55%. So that's good moisture. I'm going to move it down here where the last time I fed, that went up a little bit. That was the last item where they were fed, and it looks at about 70% moisture. So of course that's good. So I'm happy with that. I'm also going to check the pH. pH is at 7%. If I let it sit there for the recommended minute, it may titter tatter a little, but that's at 7. The pH in here is good. Now I just did it in that area. It went just a little here. It's still on 7, but it went up a hair to the corner of the 7. So that corner where they were fed at, the pH may be a little more based on what you fed your worms. But we're getting good moisture and good pH. So, and the other thing is, I mean, if you look at your castings, you really know when they're done. I mean, this is nice castings here. I don't know. I wonder about the castings. I bought castings one time, and when I opened up the bag, I said, wow, these castings are dry. They felt very gummy, felt like synthetic. And because I wanted to get to see when I first started doing worm castings, to figure out when I get worm castings, what should they look like? What should my end result look like? And I think we all watch a lot of videos out there. And I think one thing that I've never heard anybody say, especially if you watch someone that is doing this for a business, is how much time they allow their castings to rest after they harvest them. How long do they allow them to kind of dry out and come down in a moisture content? I think that 70% moisture content is what you want your bin at for the worms to live in. But what is the moisture content you want in your castings after they are done? I have some castings that are a little have dried out some, and I don't mean to say dried out, but have kind of rested and matured a little bit more. And let me tell you, they feel like the castings that I had before. And I can grab them, clump them together, they stay together, and I can drop them and it busts open. But I'm curious on that. On what should happen after the fact, that after we do our castings. Should they rest and be sat out, covered and sat out for a while to let some of that moisture come out of the castings, and then you really get the best castings, because for what I see, when we all get done with it, we don't have sometimes we have a mud pile based on how you feed your worm bins, but mine are nice and flaky. I do fluff my bins. I turn them over periodically, and to me that helps with the moisture. But I tell you, I mean, these are nice worm castings, and that's how my other ones feel. They feel almost synthetic through my hand. They almost feel like little balls, and I think that's one thing we're missing on that, is what should we do? What should the moisture content be after the fact? I mean, I know, I know. I always try to give and sell my worm castings as fresh as possible. I did a bin over the weekend. I sold 10 pounds to one of the guys at work, and I had 8 pounds out of that one bin, and it was a small bin. And on top of it, I had just had two pounds. Now I have another guy at work I'm doing another 10 pounds for. I know in this bin, based on what I see here, I might have 10 pounds. This is a bigger bin. I mean, these castings are nice. They're nice castings. I mean, they're beautiful castings. I mean, they're castings. I'll never say that they're 100% castings, because we did use something other than just putting the worms in here, putting food on top of them, and let them start to devour that food. So there is a percent of what we used as bedding in here. So it's not 100% worm castings, because they don't eat all the coconut core or anything like that. Even if you put in black cow or compost, you put compost, you're going to have the compost break down just like it does in your compost bin. But it's not going to be 100% worm castings. But this stuff looks so good. Nice moisture. So, all right, this is New Era Gardener. I just wanted to talk a little bit about pH, moisture, and end product. I'm very happy with this product. I was just talking to my wife today about going with bigger bins and less bins. I have exactly 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 11, 12 bins that I actually have worms in. So you know, just kind of trying to think of condensing them into one bin, not one bin, but maybe doing four bins, possibly 4 feet long by maybe 2 feet wide, and maybe about a foot high. And I think that's perfect size. And just kind of put them all into those 4 bins. So when I'm harvesting one bin, I'm getting a lot of castings out, because I am going through a lot of wow, this stuff is beautiful. These castings are beautiful. You know, they are so nice, nice and fluffy, not wet. So I'm very happy with that. That's why I don't rush my bins. I let my bins take their course, 3 months. And if I need to do them longer, I do them longer, based on the content of the bin and what it looks like. I have a bin down here that was supposed to be done on 3/19. I don't know if I wrote the wrong date on it as far as when it was supposed to be harvested, but it still has a lot of paper and a lot of debris in it. And that particular bin I know has a pound of worms in it. I don't know if it's because they're closer to the floor. That bin's closer to the floor. It's a little chillier to them. I don't know, but that bin isn't ready. And we're going on, today's the 13th. So we're almost a month, another extra month on that bin. And I may let it go for another full month before I do it. I have a bin that has to be done on the 25th. I may do it on the 25th. Man, I am so psyched on these castings here, man. The last couple of ones I got were beautiful worm castings, man. So if anybody has any questions, or anybody can answer some of those questions that I just brought up about, should we let the worm castings kind of rest? Should they dry out some? What moisture level should they be at the end when we harvest them and we let them rest? If anybody knows that answer, I've never heard it. I watched a couple of videos on a couple of companies that actually do worm castings and was interviewed. They did say they let it rest, but they didn't say, or they store them here and until they're ready to be bagged. But they never said for how long and what's the moisture content they're looking for in it. So if anybody can answer that question, it'd be greatly appreciated. Because I think that's what I'm going to start doing is taking some other bins, put some cloth over the top of it, some filter fabric, and let it sit for a while and kind of aerate it every couple of days to kind of see what the moisture content's going to be in that, and see how the castings turn out. So, all right, I greatly appreciate it. This is New Era Gardener. I know I talked a lot, but you know, part of what we do isn't just raising worms. It's also getting the knowledge to do it properly and to be successful with it. And especially if you are going to be selling it to people, you want to sell people the best product that you can. So that's my goal. And it's not just even about the selling it to customers. Is I want to give them what I give myself. You know, if I want the best product for my garden, and I'm going to use it in my garden, I want the best that I'm going to give to someone, or someone's going to purchase from me. I want them to be just as happy as I'm going to be with it. All right, this is NEG, New Era Gardener. Enjoy the rest of your evening. I'm going to sift this bin out, and this is going to be my test bin to let the product rest for a couple of weeks, and maybe I'll do an update video on that, on what it came out to be like, and maybe I'll take a couple pictures of what I got after this. All right, thanks. Enjoy the rest of your evening.